Hey everyone, it's Jeremiah from Alamance Battleground, and I wanted to take a moment to do sort of a special video here. You have just heard from Governor Tryon and his report to Lord Hillsborough after the battle, and I wanted to spend a couple minutes talking with a fellow who has spent a lot of time over the past few years playing William Tryon for us, and I wanted to talk with David Snyder. Dave, it's so nice to have you here.
A pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so I wanted to sort of take the mask off and give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about what it's like to portray a historical personality like William Tryon, and I don't know what's your process for when you try to do something like this.
It's quite interesting. Well, first of all, you have to do your research. You have to read on. I read a biography of Governor Tryon, and then to get a bit of more of a flavor, whatever correspondence that has survived from that time that he has written gives you a bit more of a sense of what his motivations were, a hint into his personality, and I try to emulate that as best I can.
So, having read a lot through his correspondence and his letters, how would you characterize him personality-wise as a leader? What do you think when you think of William Tryon?
Well, he was a complex person, like many are. Good leader, certainly a good administrator for the Carolina province, the North Carolina province. And on his positive qualities, there was no doubt that besides being a good administrator, he was a very brave man. I mean, he served in the 7-year wars in France, where he was lightly wounded, and organized a retreat where the French were pressing his forces, the forces he served with, I should say, into the water, literally. So he barely survived that. He actually was one of the last men off the beach. Had to one of the last boats going off had a painter, a rope hanging off the back. He literally grabbed onto that painter and was towed behind the boat, and was struck behind the head by a spent musket ball, which dazed him, and he was about to lose his grasp. And a grenadier fortunately spotted him and hauled him into the boat.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then another case of his personal bravery was during the disturbances over the Stamp Act here in North Carolina. There was a mob with torches and all that came to his residence in Brunswick Town, and were threatening to, and basically it was a mob. It was threatening, and wanted to come into his residence and all. And he actually walked right out there by himself and faced down this mob.
Amazing.
So he was quite courageous.
And
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit more about the unit that he was in the British Army, the 1st Regiment
Yes.
of Foot Guards?
He was he was a lieutenant colonel of the 1st Foot Guards in the Army. He still held that commission here in North Carolina. He was quite an ambitious person. One of the things he really wanted was to get a general's commission in the Army. He didn't get that here. He was, quote, Captain General here in North Carolina, which put him in charge of all the militia and the water forces within there. We actually don't know. I'd love to find it sometime, what he actually wore at the Battle of Alamance. I have no doubt, since he went through the trouble of getting artillery pieces, colors, standard drums, that he probably would have worn a uniform as part of the shock and awe he wanted to do to the regulators.
Indeed. So in his commission
Yes.
in the British Army, he would have had a uniform similar to what you're wearing. Is that right?
Now this is a lieutenant general's uniform, so he would have had a lieutenant colonel guards uniform. So probably not as much.
Some small differences, perhaps, but still.
But this would be an officer's uniform, essentially.
And it is a very, very striking uniform.
It
isn't
is. It is indeed. And among his better qualities was he did make an effort to stamp out the corruption. That was one of the problems that led to the Regulator Rebellion. The sheriffs and their minions with a lot of the corruption in collecting taxes and
Indeed.
such.
Indeed.
But his fatal flaw was he had an absolute reaction against any kind of disloyalty to the crown, any kind of armed rebellion. You see here at Alamance that he gave the rebels every last chance to knuckle under, essentially, to the rule of law. And then once it came to the extreme at the end, he would go fire and sword. Essentially, he would show very little mercy in putting down a rebellion. I guess in his way, he was thinking that it was his way of reestablishing the king's peace. But
and in a way, he did.
He did. He did.
However, there's quite a large, lengthy butcher's bill for
there is indeed. And later on, when the American Revolution broke out, and he was governor of New York at the time, he actually got what he wanted. He got a general's commission in the army there. But because he was so heavy-handed in dealing with a lot of the local communities there in the Hudson Valley, he was kept on a short leash, shall we say. Mm-hmm. They kind of reined him in and didn't permit him to carry out as aggressive a campaign as he wanted. So between that and the illness, ever since he came to North Carolina, he came down with some kind of recurring fever. And one of the reasons he went to New York was to be in a healthier climate. Between all that happened with the Revolution and his declining health, he finally resigned his commission and the governorship, and went back to England. So,
an incredibly interesting character.
It is. He is indeed.
And we greatly appreciate you portraying him. David Snyder's been doing this since 2016, and we look forward to many years to come portraying Governor Tryon.
Thank you. I've already outlived Tryon. Governor Tryon died at the age of 58. In London, and well, I've already beat him. I'm 62 years, and I hope to put on quite a few more. So.
We're looking forward to it. Thank you so much, David.
My pleasure.
And thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos during our 250th anniversary virtual event. Thanks.